In order to increase your chances of success for the final ritual, there is a great exercise that can be done in order to strengthen these astral senses, and sometimes, by accident, you will actually project unconsciously. I wouldn't recommend exploring far at all if this happens. Just go back to your body. First, we need a pathway that we can walk down. It can be any pathway, like a route from your bed to the front door, or a pathway that you can walk down without looking like a weirdo in front of your roommate. Figure it out, but basically, you need to pick a route with multiple checkpoints or different noticeable objects. Pick 5 different objects or more that for some reason just stick out to you or would be easy to remember. Now the objective is to start walking that path and with a keen eye, remember every single detail about this experience. For now, you're just using the sense of sight, but try to recall as much as you can. Take a break and try to remember the route. If there are any areas that you can't fully remember, then go down the route and try again. With consistency and practice, there will be a time where you can easily recall this route, and you must go through and remember each of the 5 objects. It's okay if there are some missing details when it comes to objects lying around or whatever, but make sure that the 5 objects you picked are as vibrant and detailed as possible. No missing details. Once you can clearly visualize yourself walking down this route to the destination and back to the source with all 5 objects clearly visualized, it's now time to move on to the next sense. In dreams, we mostly use sight and hearing, but there are occasions where you can feel and taste. The more senses you develop, the more real this astral experience will become for you. Sometimes, it may be difficult to imagine yourself walking realistically. You have to imagine as if you were really walking down this route physically, not just floating down the hallway. That's important to note. You must sit in a position, relax, and imagine yourself walking this route mentally after studying the route many times physically. You must feel all the same sensations of walking as you did when you walked the route physically. Try doing imaginary push-ups and try to feel the resistance of the ground and make the sensation in your imagination feel as much as it does in the physical. Test yourself by doing 20 imaginary push-ups. Seems like a joke, but most people don't have the mental patience or discipline to even complete this task. Explains why many struggle with finding any type of value from these experiences because they're just imagination, huh? Well, let's continue and find out. Now let's work with our astral hearing. For each of the 5 objects, assign a note, where if you are tone deaf, just think of a different mantra for each object. As you pass each object with your visualization, try to hear a different note for each point. If you can do this digitally, it may help you to download the sounds on your phone and play them as you pass each object. The same can be done with scent. Assign different smells to each object. One scent can be vanilla, another peppermint, rose, or even a type of perfume. What we are doing is developing our consciousness to focus on each one of our astral senses. You are actually projecting when you do this in the sense that you are in your astral body, but the majority of your consciousness still remains within your physical body. As you do these exercises, you are developing these other senses that will then allow for a full conscious projection in the future. At the beginning of this exercise, I mentioned that an accidental astral projection may occur. As you continually practice visualizing this route within your mind, there will come a time when you actually forget what you were just doing. You will merge into your visual as if it were a dream. If this happens, don't be alarmed, and I wouldn't look in a mirror as you're just a ghostly shape. If this happens, it should more be considered an etheric projection, as you're manipulating your etheric body with your astral body senses. This etheric body can actually be felt and experienced by others. If this happens to you, other clairvoyants can sense you under the right conditions. This is, at its most basic level, a simple remote viewing. Like I said before, do not go too far. Sure, maybe nothing will happen, and you'll just wake up, but most of the time, you will actually forget what happens. Meaning, if you run into something you aren't supposed to, your memory can actually be wiped. Kind of a deep topic, but yeah, just trust me. Stay in your living quarters until you have mastered the discipline and protection rituals. The final method for astral projection that will be presented may seem extremely occult for some, but to others it may shed some light. Feel free to do what you will with this information, as we all have access to the same powers, and I would never promote ignorance. This method is the method that the occultists of the past used for all sorts of magical purposes. It's not just astral projection. You can create astral entities as well, but that subject has its own depth and will be for more advanced students. This method is concealed in the legend of the homunculus. Many translate this alchemical legend as literally. I'm sure many of you have seen that famous Russian YouTube channel where the guy basically makes these creatures. It's completely fake, and not what the alchemist meant by the legend. The story is of creating an artificial man, or body, in which consciousness would be contained. This method is called the body of light, and it is just an extension of yourself. This final section is based on some very profound occult knowledge and practices. Hopefully by now you have noticed that this is no ordinary New Age tutorial, and we are not sitting here trying to say, here you go visualize and attract what you want in your life. No, this is a presentation that explains what the occult even is and how to use it. You are being given this knowledge by the direction of inner powers, but there will come a time when this knowledge is known by the masses. It is already occurring and countless numbers of people are ready to learn and use these higher powers. None of this is new, but the majority of people are completely ignorant of how this inner-outer process influences our day-to-day lives. Whether you realize it or not, you are doing magic. But now you can learn to do it consciously or on purpose, giving you more power. Now the rituals from earlier are a foundation, and you must think of these skills as depending on the foundation before it. Start with the lesser banishing ritual. If you wish to have help visualizing the blue flame, take a teaspoon of whiskey, brandy, or rubbing alcohol. If necessary, place it on some fireproof material. Do this in a dark room at night. This will produce the color of the blue flame needed. Timing is very important. Like I mentioned, there is so much to cover when it comes to magic that it can be daunting to the beginner, but different hours contain different energies. Depending on the placements of the stars, different cosmic energies feed down into the physical plane. You must keep a journal to record all of your rituals. Know what sign the moon was in when performing the visual. Were your visuals clear and very easy to conceive? Or did you struggle and the visuals were blurry? Now perform the banishing ritual and clearly see the pentagrams. Again, you must evoke the spirits for each element. As you continue to connect with the elements, the more powerful the experience will become. We have already prepared with the path exercise from before, where we practice imagining our body walking down a specific route. I mentioned the imaginary push-ups, but more must be done in order to understand what it feels like to move these other bodies that you have. Nothing that you do here in the material realm is simply a physical action. Your physical actions extend through all the way to the top plane. You cannot do anything physical without doing something etheric, astral, mental, or casual. You use these planes all the time and all at once. First, start by looking at your right hand. Look at it as if you've never seen it before. Hold your right hand up before you. Turn it both ways. Move all the parts of it every way they will go and note the actions carefully. Then holding the palm up before you, move the thumb over the palm in the hand and say out loud, thumb. Then bend the finger down over the thumb palm and say first finger. Then bend the second finger, third finger, and do the same. You want to mentally state the actions that you are doing. Next, sit down in a chair, close your eyes, and see an image of your inner hands doing the same movements as the physical hands. Your inner hands should appear as gray-white shadowed transparent hands before your inner eye. You need to demand with your will the movements of this other body. It doesn't work the same way as in the physical realm. Those are automatic computations. In the astral, you don't move the same way. You move through a strong will. Have you ever had a dream where you can't run fast or your punches are extremely weak? This can happen to the beginner when first entering their astral bodies with full consciousness. It happens in OBE experiences all the time, where the individual will find it very difficult to move around the room and will continually sink to the ground. You must train the will in order to move this astral body. That's why I was suggesting imaginative push-ups, but either will do. And for now, your statements and words will represent your will. Just make statements for what you want to do. So state in your astral hearing or voice, or demand that your hand make the appropriate actions. In this case, it's just bending our astral imaginative fingers. After a good period of time of practice, after months or even less in some cases, you should be able to see another body before you when you close your physical eyes and open your inner eyes. You should be able to see, starting with your physical hands first, a complete body before you. This body should move the same as your physical body moves and with the same motions. This body should be able to perform simple motions at your mental orders. This is the goal, and this will be your vehicle for these adventures. Now to strengthen this body of light, perform the lesser banishing ritual with this newly formed body in contrast to before, where we performed this ritual physically. Now, after diligent practice of commanding your astral body, Go through the ritual as you did in person, but now with this new body of light. You must feel all the sensations as if they were real. The visuals in this video may be to your assistance, but you want to get lost in this experience as if it were a dream. Don't fall asleep though. You must be wide awake, energized, and focused for these experiences. There should be no hurry. Physically, it may take you 10 minutes or more to perform the LBRP, so it may go by quicker as you visualize this astrally. Just take your time, and forget about the time for now. You shouldn't even be thinking about how much longer it's going to take. Just enjoy the process. When you're done performing this ritual with your body of light, see yourself returning to your body and stay there. Do not venture off at such an early stage. The final step is simply to transfer your consciousness from your physical body to the body of the light entirely. As we mentioned before, you can also use this body of light to create a familiar or astral entities, one step at a time. A familiar is an old-time name for a sort of assistant, associate extension of yourself, which the occultist living in the medieval ages was able to create out of the material from other planes, using methods from the system and knowledge of Kabbalah. Naturally, it goes without saying that the Roman Catholic Church, which was at the height of its power during the medieval ages, was very much against this sort of thing, and did succeed in suppressing and killing many of the people who knew about this knowledge and/or driving them underground. Also discrediting them by labeling them witches and warlocks, when really this was an attempt to suppress the wisdom of the ancients. The cycle of cosmic world forces have again come around to the place where the power of the church has been greatly curtailed, and these workings of inner plane knowledge can be rediscovered and recovered by those who are naturally clairvoyant. This is the knowledge that can be made available to you so you can help yourself to a better life for you on the physical plane. I want to assure those of you who have some doubts about this work that there is nothing harmful or dangerous in this work. Actually, the knowledge itself is old stuff and has been used and practiced for untold ages. Up to this point in this work, the knowledge and training that you have acquired in creating and developing your body of light, plus the knowledge contained in mentioned instructions, should enable you to enter the inner planes to enough degree so as to influence circumstances, coming events in your favor. Work of this sort never ends, and you will have all eternity to perfect it. I'm going to give now a list of things that you will be able to do with a little more practice with your light body familiar in its present state of development, and they are as follows. 1. As aforesaid, you can use your body of light as an extension of yourself, and used this way, it becomes what is commonly known as a familiar. This familiar light body, being made of the material of the inner planes, can enter those planes freely and affect the matter material of those planes in any way that you direct it to. You can start circumstances working the way you want them to work. This is a powerful tool that should stand you in good stead in this tough life. 2. You can use the familiar as a watcher. You can send it to a place where it will watch and record what is going on and then report the information to you when you bring the familiar back to you. Requires more occult knowledge. 3. You can use the familiar as a guard. You can form the familiar into a form, or whatever animal you want to, or any other form for that matter, and set it to guard something. 4. The body of light familiar can be used as a healing agent somewhat in the following manner. Transfer to the body of light form the particular illness that is troubling you. Then treat and handle this illness through your power of imagination. You alter and change this out-picture illness that you see in your imagination into a pictured condition of health. This is basic healing magic, and at a more advanced level you would involve the angels, but for now, this explains the point. 5. All things have a counterpart on the inner planes. In fact, the real thing is there and not here. You can go in your body of light to that place in the inner planes where these counterparts are, and then merge yourself with that counterpart, and thus control it. This is the basics to causing real-world effects with your body of light. 6. You can invoke in your imagination an image of some particular God force that you want to help you, and then merge your body of light with this God force image. More intense than psychedelics. 7. You can explore the inner planes and meet that which passes for inhabitants thereon. There are many different intelligences that can assist you along your path. This also includes the deceased, but I highly recommend not visiting dead relatives. Everyone is different. You can decide for yourself whether it is a necessity or not. All the above pertain to the creation of this body of light, and its use works somewhat on its own power, as it were. That is, when you created this body of light, you endowed it with your own life force and life power, and thus it is truly an extension of yourself. This is really nothing unusual. Everybody does this all the time unconsciously, but only now have you done it deliberately. When this kind of work is done unconsciously, the object created is usually called a thought form. Thus created casually, they quickly disintegrate and do not last too long, barely long enough to do their job. However, the work you have done has been deliberate and was done with the intention and the form thus created can last for a long time. When you're not using the body of light, you must keep it inside of your aura. You do this by willing it that way. In the next step, you're going to unite your consciousness with that consciousness of the body of light that you've created. Basically, it consists of transferring your senses to that body and then functioning in and through those senses on the inner plane, where that body is. Now, you did some of this work before, so this should not be new to you, and if you did your work right in the path exercises, then you should have no trouble doing it here. At this point, after following these instructions, the appearance of your body of light should be that of a duplicate of your physical body. Naturally, you'll say, yeah, what else would it be? It is true that for many purposes you will hold the body of light in the shape of your physical body. For healing, as I told you before, and for making it take the other shapes for the other purposes as also aforesaid. But for general projection work and for the transfer of your consciousness to the body, you do not need a human body shape at all. Remember that you are learning a new art of living here. You are being reborn. That is the meaning of those words in the Bible. You are reversing the process by which you came down, and you are now going back up, and you're going to do this by your own development efforts. Therefore, you're going to have certain freedoms that you did not know about before, freedoms which you did not have on the physical plane. You don't have to create an eye structure of any kind, or even the suggestion of one, but you can if you want. That is, an astral body does not need eyes to see with on the astral plane. To see there, you do not use any kind of eye-type structure or instrument. But to help you make the transfer, it might be alright to put eyes on and in the head of your man-like form of the body of light and then appear to use these eyes at first when you first make efforts to transfer the sense of sight to this inner plane body. You will have to do this only for a time, however. As you gain more experience in this work, you will gradually discard this imaginary eye structure and see with the whole body at once, all over. This is what is known as 360 vision and can be quite a daunting experience for the beginner. It's nothing to worry about now, but something to simmer on. To return to the instructions, you are now engaged in trying to see on the inner planes and see with a different eye through another different kind of body, an inner plane body and an inner plane eye. I'm going to leave out of the consideration here what it is you're trying to see. Actually, you're trying to see your own creation. In fact, the whole world is your own creation, and so are the things on the inner planes your own creation. Persist in holding yourself inside of the body of light and pressure yourself to see. Imagine what it would feel like to see through the eyes of this body of light. With practice and consistency, it is the pressure of your will that will accomplish the connection in time. You must see with new eyes like a baby. But the place you are in is the etheric plane, when you first begin to see things through the eyes of the body of light. You should be rather familiar with this plane and its laws and scenery, as you should have done work on the path exercise and on the dream method system by now. The only thing that should be different is that you can now move about with a definitive other body made of the same type of matter material as the plane itself. This functioning in this kind of body will give you a new sensation of power that is very gratifying. After you have attained some degree of seeing and some degree of moving about, the next sense you will develop is that of feeling. The learning to move about is a sort of feeling, but you can learn how to develop this to a much larger degree, and it will be necessary for you to develop this to a much larger degree if you are going to really function on these inner planes. By function, I mean accomplish actions that result in effects, which effects are transferred to the physical plane. We're not going to discuss this type of magic in this presentation, as this is simply an introduction. As you will be on the etheric plane, or very close to the borderline of the lower astral, you can select an appropriate object on which to practice your body of light sense of touch and feeling. The things you see on the etheric plane should be counterparts of things that now exist on the physical plane. Do not, however, select a counterpart of a living thing. Influencing live things' counterparts belongs to advanced work again. Select a counterpart of some simple object, such as a chair or table, for your first feeling work. Place the body of light, with you in it, in front of the object that you've selected. You can now extend a hand from the body of light and touch the object. The contact should bring a sensation, and of course, this sensation is different from that of a physical contact with a physical body. Again, you have to practice and practice again and again with this etheric contact. Run your hand over the object and try to assemble the feelings into something like recognition of some kind of form and shape. You will at first, as I said, extend an etheric arm and do the feeling a great deal like the way you do on the physical plane. Later you will find that you can feel with the whole body at once and have no need to extend a hand-like thing. You will learn to flow around the object and feel it that way. Still later, you will find that you will feel by not only feeling the outside of the object, but also flowing through the object. You will find that on the inner planes, two objects can occupy the same space at the same time. You will learn that on the recording of inner plane sensations, the imagination will be a much more potent force to be reckoned with. In fact, later, when you learn to make extreme journeys into the deeper inner planes, you will have to look out for your imagination, as in those deeper planes, the imagination is very powerful, and the matter of those planes extremely fluid, so much so that you can form this inner plane matter very easily into whatever thing you are imagining at that time, and it will take the form and even say what you want to hear. Many people have decided themselves in this way, and imagined that they were gods or were special messengers of the gods, etc., and made no end of trouble for themselves and for others who believed them. There are ways of doing this sort of thing right, and you must do it right from the beginning. The next three senses should be developed in the following order: tasting, smelling, and hearing. Tasting and smelling can be developed the same way as you develop the sense of feeling. By this time you know that you do not need to have a tongue or a nose to taste or smell with. You select the object to be tasted and to be smelled, and you flow the body of light around them and proceed to smell and taste, and with the usual application of your imagination. You will not use these senses too much on the inner plane, but you should develop them to the best of your ability. I have now laid out all the basic knowledge and instructions necessary for creating your own body of light and to use it for certain functions. The work is not easy, but it is not hard. Unlike most any other kinds of work and or training, this work is very personal and also very much of a concentrated action type of which you are the center and driving force. If you will study the knowledge and do the training, you will succeed in the degree that you are capable of doing so, even in the least adaptable, as long as one shows true interest. This concludes this presentation. A while ago, our channel was shadow banned. It was something I needed to learn to come to terms with, as it was quite shocking to receive such a drop in traffic in comparison to when we first started. Our channel can't spread using traditional YouTube methods, and we depend on word of mouth for spreading this information to others. If you feel any type of interest or curiosity, share it with others so that they may have an example to work from. A final message to all: be wise with your energy. Whether you realize it or not, energy is being taken from your astral body by negative forces. People feed their fears to big corporations, media, religion, and all this unused energy is used by negative beings with negative intentions. Don't waste your energy, and think before you react. The choice is yours. All I can say is, may our minds be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?